Hello friends, it's Adventure April time, and this week I was in the studio wrangling all of my gear together. For what I do, tech and adventure gear converge, and often this involves showing you what I work with and capturing it in an accurate but fun way in both photos and video. Along the way, I wanted to give you some insight as to how I prepare for shoots like this, how I get the gear together and get myself together, and the whole studio so that you can see how it all fits together. Snapchick VIPs and Patreon patrons, jump over to snapchick.com to check out the behind the scenes content. There's a link in the description of this video to get there. My VIPs and Zion and Beyond patrons get all of the detail, the highs and lows of putting the shoot together and then the editing process, and also the complete gallery of the final images. Oh, and if you're interested in joining, follow that same link below and you can check it out. Okay, on with it. For this shoot, I decided that the products on their own are nice to look at and to photograph, but I wanted to bring in the human element and the fun factor. Gear is nice to look at on its own, but it's also nice to see how it fits on a person and how they would hold it and use it. In fact, I was looking for a backpack recently and I was unable to make a decision on it because there were no photos of the backpack on a person, let alone actually being used for its intended purpose. I couldn't really get scale or how big it really was or how much I could actually fit in there. So I gave myself a challenge. This challenge was, first, take the photos inside, not out at a famous national park. But then, how can I show off my gear and how it is used in those great places far outside the studio? Since product is on my mind, I decided to go with a very crisp studio atmosphere. White backdrop, white table. This puts the viewer's eyes right on the product and the person using them. This is very much the opposite of mood lighting. This is bright, show them what you've got lighting. We did wider shots for the wearables that I showed off, like this jacket and backpack. And we did tighter shots for things that you hold and smaller items like my Garmin watch. And finally, we went crazy with the Mavic Pro and very carefully had it hover right here in the studio. It was only a little scary, but the Mavic definitely delivers indoors and out. My complete review is in the works and I will talk more about how it delivers in that video. Now there were three things that I had to keep in mind during the shoot. One, this isn't just me, it's me and a product. On a few of the shots, I did some of my more traditional poses, but like my glance was away from the product or it just didn't fit the mood of the product. With some quick feedback from my assistant, we realized that the poses in the studio here would have to be less complex. The product is front and center with the model as the complement to the gear, not the dominant subject. Two, composition and studio arrangement. Just going from here to here required a pretty significant reconfiguration of the studio. We had to watch for how the shadows and reflections changed, all while keeping the backdrop bright white for each and every product. More on that in my VIP and Patreon patron videos. Three, finally, since I was in the studio, I had to use my imagination to put me out in the field with these products. It's one thing for me to put on my backpack and show it off. It's another thing for me to picture myself out on an adventure, wearing it as I would out there. For me, it's the difference between a contrived product shot and one that truly shows off the genuine appeal of the item. There's a big difference. And in a catalog or on a website, I can spot right away if the model has ever truly used the product prior to the photo shoot. We've all seen it. 1 minute, that catalog model is in pajamas. And 10 pages later, the same person is awkwardly shoehorned into some adventure gear, and it ends up looking almost silly. Now in part 2 of this shoot coming next week, you will see me out in the field with many of these same items. There's a time for the studio, and there's a time for the desert and the woods. I won't have nearly as much control of the environment out in the field, but adventure gear belongs on adventures, so that's where we will be taking it. In my case, out in harsh desert, a true test for any gear and any person. Thanks for joining me this week, and head over to snapchick.com for more info and photos on this shoot. And next time, we'll be out in the wild. See you all soon.